The public order bill has caused a huge division across all parties, splitting those who believe the right to peaceful protest and those who believe more should be done to stop public disruptions, like the ones we've seen caused by climate activists, Just Stop Oil, and also us lot who didn't like the lockdowns. Anyway, never mind. The changes introduced yesterday will broaden the legal definition of serious disruption, giving the police greater flexibility to essentially define what constitutes serious disruption as they please. Yeesh. This creates a legal grey area which effectively creates pre-crime for peaceful protests. Whatever your opinions on climate extremism and the way they protest, very few can deny that peaceful protests have been a crucial part of progress in this country. The suffragettes chained themselves to the railings of Westminster for the right of women to vote. The right to peaceful assembly and the right to protest are key pillars of our society. But is vandalising buildings and historically significant art, blocking and gluing people to integral road networks, really as justified as peaceful? Here to discuss this with me is Just Stop Oil climate activist Alex de Koning. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
I think we're on the same side here. What do you think?
I think about a lot of the issues we are, yes, and I think about a lot of the issues in general. A lot of people are, but there's still so much that divides us, and our government is trying to use that division in order to make sure that nothing gets done. But a lot of us want change. We want better. We want our energy bills to be lower. We want more renewable energy for most people, over 77%. We want our houses to be insulated, and yet these are exactly the kind of things our corrupt politicians are refusing to do. And they're trying to make it harder for people to speak up, to do anything about it, to criticize them. I think it's disgusting.
Do you think that there should be a limit to any form of protest? I mean, do you think criminal damage is going to get the public on side, though? Or slowing people down on their way to work?
I think that protests like that are entirely proportional with what we're facing, because sadly, what we're facing is the extinction of the human race. There was 33 million people in Pakistan who got displaced by floods. It was 40-degree weather here in the UK, so hot that crops got set on fire. We lost half of our potato crop last year and a third of our wheat crop. This year, because of the reservoirs not filling up because of drought, we're predicted to have our entire fruit and vegetable supply chain on the brink of collapse. It's 2023 and this is already happening. What's going to happen in 2033? I think it's a terrifying thought. So we need to be doing everything we can in order to speak up and make sure that our corrupt politicians are not subsidizing the fossil fuel industry anymore, and instead we're switching to renewable energies and making sure our energy bills are as low as possible. It could be 9 times lower if we had renewables.
I do support people's right to protest. I think it's an absolutely amazing thing. But I'm protesting for something, which is my liberties, for example, over lockdowns. It seems to me that you're protesting against something. Now, can you tell me, is there any good news coming out of Just Stop Oil that you can tell us about the planet?
There is a lot of good news, but in all honesty, it's a little bit meaningless if we're still trying to open up these over 100 new fossil fuel licenses. Everything else is kind of mopping up with the tap open. But the good news is that we have a lot of solutions. We could be insulating homes, subsidizing public transport, taxing the big oil and gas companies, using tidal power, using energy storage for green hydrogen and other things. There's a lot of solutions out there. They're just all being ignored. I'm a climate scientist myself, but what we do as scientists means nothing if the government's not willing to implement it.
There would be some, though, that would say that certainly something like electric vehicles use up so much more of Mother Nature's wonderful resources than a fossil fuel car anyway, so they're actually much dirtier than a fossil fuel produced car. Do you have any words for the children in Congo who are mining the cobalt there?
We're Just Stop Oil. We're not Just Start Electric Cars. We think that there needs to be.
But once you've just stopped oil, sorry to interrupt you. Once you've just stopped oil, what do people just walk?
Public transport. It's cheap. If it was made more accessible to a lot more people, why on earth wouldn't we use that?
Which cobalt you're talking about?
Public transport.
Public transport. Well, you can't get people shouldn't be forced onto public transport. People should have the autonomy. We're in 2023, the autonomy to go from one house to not everyone lives in a city. It's, you know, it's madness. What about a lady who lives in the middle of the countryside?
Far more accessible public transport that could help with everything. Why wouldn't we be having better train services that are subsidised? Why wouldn't we be having more frequent buses? These are all easily implementable things.
I don't know about you. I live in London, and I drive past a bus lane with 8 buses in it, and I often see less than 8 people in all 8 buses combined. So it seems to me there is a lot of public transport out there. It also seems to me that people, human beings, like the independents to turn around and go, well, I want to go from A to B, and I want to do it on my own time, in my own way, when I choose to do it, and in a method I choose to do it, listening to the music I want to do it in. Why should we, in 2023, turn around and take away something that was a human right in 1950?
I'm not trying to take away your cars. I'm just saying that public transport could be subsidized and it could be far more improved. For example, in Germany, they had €9 for an entire month of public transport, and everybody started taking more public transport, because why wouldn't they? Oil prices and petrol prices are insanely high, and this also saved 18 million tons of carbon dioxide, more than all of the cars in Germany. Why wouldn't we be doing that? It's a no-brainer. A lot of what we're trying to suggest in Just Stop Oil are no-brainers. Why wouldn't we want our homes insulated and our energy bills lower?
Well, on a personal level, if you're asking why wouldn't we, I would say that I wouldn't want young slave-laboured African Congolese children to have to mine the batteries of virtue signallers. Anyway, I really hope you stop, and it's lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining me, Alex de Koning.
Come join us on